Profit is when you make a sacrifice for what you value less to get something you value more. You cannot make a profit in a voluntary exchange with another adult who's of sound mind without that other adult of sound mind also making a profit.
You're listening to the Profit First for Lawyers podcast, the official companion show to the book Profit First for Lawyers by RJon. Now, this podcast is for you if you want to bring home more profit while working less hours in the office, spending more time with your loved ones doing the things you actually want to do, and turning your office into a lean, mean, profit-breathing machine. So if you're tired of working for your law firm instead of your law firm working for you, stay tuned for some really practical insights that will get you the results you've always wanted. It's time to put your BS aside for the next few minutes and put yourself, your family, your firm, and your profit first. Welcome back to another episode of the Profit First for Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Carly, and today we're talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart. We're going to dive deep into a concept that RJon calls the Doctrine of Sacrifice. We're going to shine a light on this alarmingly prevalent, insidious, incredibly harmful, and self-limiting belief that runs absolutely rampant in the law industry especially. Now, this might be a little hard to hear, but I promise that this episode could change your life. So let's get started. The first question that you're probably asking right now is, what on earth is the Doctrine of Sacrifice? So let me give you a thorough definition taken from a document that RJon wrote himself. This is what it says in RJon's own words. There is a dangerous concept I call the Doctrine of Sacrifice that runs deep in the legal community. It's rarely spoken aloud. Most lawyers are not even aware they've been infected or at least heavily influenced by it. It's like the old joke about sitting down for a game of poker and not being able to spot who the sucker is. The Doctrine of Sacrifice traces its roots to a lawyer who lived and died more than 500 years ago and was so influential on our profession that he was canonized as the patron saint of lawyers. The Doctrine of Sacrifice elevates sacrifice. What you give up, how much you can endure, how much you can take, how many hours you can give your law firm. The Doctrine of Sacrifice elevates sacrifice above all else and holds that sacrifice is the end, not just the means. It celebrates sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice. It presupposes that sacrifice is good, not that it's necessary, but that it's good for its own sake. And this is why lawyers at bar functions the world over compare, compete, and even brag about how much they sacrifice without saying a word about how much value they create. But one thing I want to make very clear is that clients don't care how much we sacrifice. They don't care that you drafted their contract instead of going to your kid's birthday party. It does not make winning their case more valuable to them just because winning comes at such a high personal cost. Clients care about value. Lawyers care about sacrifice. And when you care more about sacrifice than value, a funny thing happens. You find ways to create value only by sacrificing. Pretty powerful, right? Look, this floored me when I first read it, and I had to go back and instantly read it again, right? This mindset runs absolutely rampant in our society as a whole, not just the law field. And it's one of those things that I'd never looked at before. I'd never even thought of looking at it because until RJon pointed it out, I had no clue it even existed. I'm going to play a clip next. This is from one of How to Manage a Small Law Firm's all hands on deck meetings. This is basically a company-wide meeting of only our team members where we discuss the company, vision, purpose, mission, and then the goals that we're driving toward over the coming year as a team. This was something I got to attend in person. It was really fun. This is RJon talking about our purpose and why it matters so much. Okay, let's roll the clip.
Purpose. Purpose is why you do things. You've heard it said before. I'm going to say it again. The purpose of this company is to liberate entrepreneurs from the doctrine of sacrifice so that they can make this an amazing world for all of us. Because Every scientific invention, every advance in medical science, every good thing that we have in society came from an entrepreneur. Government is funded by the value created by entrepreneurs. Yeah? Science is funded by entrepreneurs. Higher education is funded by entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the people who are creating the value in the world, and that value is used to fund everything else that's great in this world. The arts, the sciences, education, you name it. Make sense? Now, you could agree or you could not agree, but this is my point of view.
Most good things that I can think of in our society have been created or supported by entrepreneurs. You, as a law firm owner, are part of a class of people that literally shape the world. And we want you, sincerely, we want you to reject the doctrine of sacrifice and reach for your fullest potential. Okay, so we've talked about what the doctrine of sacrifice is and why it matters to RJon and to all of us that get to work with him. And now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty. This next clip is from one of our events in 2018. Now, if you've been with us for a while, you've heard us mention our live quarterly meetings, or LQMs, before. But just briefly for those of you who are just joining us, an LQM is a large meeting where all of How to Manage a Small Law Firm's members gather together in one place, and we all go an inch wide and a mile deep on an important topic that will help them move the needles in their businesses. So here's RJon on stage. He's talking about profit and how profit relates to the doctrine of sacrifice. Let's roll the clip.
See, the doctrine of sacrifice is not about never making sacrifices. We're making sacrifices all day long, every day. We're always making sacrifices. There's not a minute of a day that you live on this earth without making a sacrifice. Because every minute and every day, you're sacrificing the opportunity to do everything else you could be doing instead of doing whatever it is you are doing in that moment. The doctrine of sacrifice, it values the sacrifice irrespective of whether you made a profit or not from making the sacrifice. It values the sacrifice for the sake of making the sacrifice, right? So you see this blue M&M? If I put it on the ground and I step on it and I sacrificed it, the doctrine of sacrifice says that's a good thing because I made a sacrifice. Even though I didn't make a profit, it still sees, oh, you made a sacrifice, therefore that's to be admired. And the real perversion of the doctrine of sacrifice is that if I got a benefit from the sacrifice, like for example, getting something that I wanted, like a green M&M in exchange, the doctrine of sacrifice would say that it's less admirable when you sacrifice because you got something for it. Because we don't value profit, we value sacrifice. And if you got something you wanted more than what you gave up, then it wasn't really as big a sacrifice as if you sacrificed it for something you wanted less. Because martyrdom is noble. Is ultimately the doctrine of sacrifice leads you to martyrdom. And you can't even be a martyr though. Why? Because if you're a martyr for a cause you believe in, then you're actually getting something you value in exchange for your life. You've got to kill yourself for something you don't believe in order to achieve the ultimate respect according to the doctrine of sacrifice. You get what I'm saying here? Profit is when you make a sacrifice for what you value less to get something you value more. You cannot make a profit in a voluntary exchange with another adult who's of sound mind without that other adult of sound mind also making a profit. Why? Why can't I make a profit in an exchange with Michael without Michael making a profit too? Because if he wasn't making a profit, if he wasn't getting something he values more than what he's giving up, he wouldn't voluntarily agree to the exchange. I could still get the green M&M away from him, but I would have to use force or fraud to do it. That's not making a sale. That's ripping him off. That's stealing from him. That's defrauding him. Your business cannot make a profit without it helping a lot of other people make a profit too. And if your business makes a profit without helping a lot of other people make a profit too, it won't be able to stay in business very long, because you can't do enough marketing to overcome all the bad reputation you're going to develop.
You do not have to feel guilty for making a profit. Because as RJon just mentioned, the only way for you to make a profit is to help more people. Like, that's the truth, no matter what the Doctrine of Sacrifice may say. And okay, let's go even a little bit further on this, just so we really drive home that point. In December of 2023, RJon ran a 12-part live video series speaking with HTM's executives and experts, and really focusing on helping law firm owners grow their businesses in the healthiest ways possible. Now, in each of these videos, the guest would bring a clip from a previous event that RJon spoke at. Now, the clip we just heard was from that series, where Oscar Ferenzi, who you might remember him from episode 33 in season 1, we've got it linked in our show notes below in case you want a refresher. But Oscar asked RJon to dig even further into the correlation between profits and the Doctrine of Sacrifice. Here's RJon's response.
I believe we are trained, we are educated, we are taught by our mentors, our parents, our teachers, everybody, that you have to do things because it is expected of you. And it takes away your freedom, your power, because what we ought to be focusing on is what we want out of life. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Because as you say in the video, you're always going to be sacrificing, but the sacrifice has to bring profit to you, at which point it's not about martyrdom. It's about actually benefiting you as well as those around you. And so many, many times as we talk to our members, what we find is that they're involved in this rat race and they don't even know why they're involved in the rat race. They don't know why they work, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Because when you ask them ultimately, why are you doing it? They don't really know why. They've never thought about it. They do it because it's expected of them. And they do it because they feel that's how they add value. But there is no real profit for them. In certain instances, there is, but they're not doing it with a level of consciousness that would allow them to make decisions that are a profit for them. Like you said, you sacrifice certain things to get to where you are today. There was a profit for you, and there was a profit for everybody around you, or everybody who worked with you during that period of time. And so it's worth it for both sides. When you do it for only one side, or you're taking advantage, which is the worst part of it all, then the equation is skewed in the wrong way.
Well, that's not a profit.
Nobody can profit.
That's not the definition of profit. People look, you can call something, if it's got a beak and claws and a big red thing on the top of its head and feathers, you can call it a duck, but it's not a duck, it's a chicken, right? Lots of people throw labels onto things without really taking the time to understand what they are. Profit is anytime you exchange something of a lower value to get something of a higher value. Anytime you exchange something that you value less to get something you value more, you're making a profit. Anytime you exchange something you value more to get something less, intending to get something less, you are embracing the doctrine of sacrifice. And the question people always ask is, well, like, what if it turns out to be unprofitable? Profit is measured at the moment of the exchange. At the moment of the exchange, if what I'm giving up is worth less to me than what I'm getting, in that moment, I'm making a profit. The example that I give usually is like a lottery ticket. You buy a lottery ticket. You ever bought a lottery ticket, Oscar?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people do it. I buy lottery tickets sometimes. I don't know. I don't win usually. But the point I'm making is people buy a lottery ticket, right? People go to casinos. They gamble, right? They're giving up $1 to get a piece of paper. Well, no, they're not giving up $1 to get a piece of paper. They're giving up $1 to get hope. The hope is worth more to them than the dollar. They're giving up the dollar for a chance. The chance, as distant as it may be, is worth more to them than the dollar. They're giving up the dollar for excitement, the thrill of being able to scratch off that thing for that minute or however long it takes to scratch it off. That's worth more to them than the dollar. Carrying those numbers around in their pocket all day long gives them a little jolt of excitement every time they daydream and imagine
what they might do if they got the right numbers. And that's worth more to them than the dollar. What you give up in the moment has to be worth less to you than what you get in exchange. Otherwise, you don't do it voluntarily. No one would ever make a voluntary exchange to intentionally get something they value less than what they're giving up, unless they buy into the doctrine of sacrifice, in which case they try and they still fail, because the doctrine of sacrifice itself is self-defeating. It's an impossibility.
It's an impossibility. No matter how much we try to sacrifice, we'll never win because it's not remotely possible. It cannot be done. Okay, so why is this so important for you to know? Why is this so near and dear to my heart? Like, Oscar does a really good job answering the question, so I'm going to play one last clip and I'm going to let him speak. I think this really showcases the value of understanding the doctrine of sacrifice and what it can do for your business when you liberate yourself from it. Let's roll that clip.
How is watching this clip? If this clip was a pill, if this clip was a magic wand, not what's in it, not how it's going to taste, just boop, pat me on the head, how's my life presumably going to be better as a result of watching this clip, assuming, of course, I implement what I learned?
You are going to take control over your life, over the things that happen in your life. You're going to limit yourself to doing the things that actually serve you versus the things that serve everybody else, not necessarily yourself.
And how's that going to make my life better?
Well, you're going to be doing what you like instead of what you have to. You're going to be more profitable. You're going to be happier, and you're going to be more productive.
So this clip is going to help make me happier, make me more productive, and get me doing things on my terms instead of everyone else's terms.
And ultimately make you profitable.
And also and make your business more profitable.
Simply put, I promised that this concept could change your life. And look, I'm confident about that because it has absolutely changed mine. The doctrine of sacrifice does not help anyone. Sacrificing for sacrifice's sake does not make us better people. And I've realized since learning about this concept that the best thing that I can do is to be the best person I can possibly be, to focus on reaching my own fullest potential. And the only way to do that is to help more people. Now, the kicker for me was the realization that I cannot help more people by sacrificing myself. And you cannot either. Okay. I hope that you got as much out of this topic and that it has been as valuable for you as it has been for me. Stay tuned next time as we speak with one of our members about the things they've done to grow their law firm. We'll see you then. Hey guys! So quick note here, we really wanted to make sure that we weren't just giving you profitable concepts, but that we were also providing some resources to help you take action and see the results in your own lives. Now, some of these resources are going to be downloadable, some of them are going to be watchable, and others will be live. But all of them will be offered to you completely for free, no strings attached. Now, we do host a Profit First for Lawyers workshop several times per year all over the US, and RJon has finally agreed to let me offer it to our listeners again for free. So if you're ready to get serious about making your law firm more profitable, click the link in our show notes below and reserve your seat now. Now, fair warning, we do cap attendance at these events to make sure that attendees get some real laser focus on the things that are important to them. And we do always run out of seats, so make sure that you've snagged your seat. If you want even more insights and even more RJon, don't miss it. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Profit First for Lawyers. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, tell a friend. And visit profitfirstforlawyers.com/action. to download the resources that are going to help you put these concepts to work for your law firm. Your future self will thank you for it, and we will see you next time.